Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second session of the Organic Home Gardening webinar series organized by Dilma Conservation. The series was organized following the success of previous series on organic home gardening. This time, however, you will receive a valuable certificate for your participation. There are three types of certificates which will be awarded at the end of this webinar series based on your attendance and completion of any interactive assessments. Certificate of participation will be awarded for the attendees who have only participated in at least 6 sessions of this series. Certificate of merit will be awarded for the attendees who have participated in the webinar series and practice some concepts and provided photo documentation of your work. Certificate of Distinction will be awarded for the attendees who have participated in the webinar series, practice all the concepts, and send photos of your work. Please note that all participants must register with a working email address for the webinar series to be eligible for any of the certificates. Our resource person for the day is Mr. Anuradha Ranasinghe, who is an entrepreneur and agricultural consultant at ABBA Agro Consultancy. I welcome you on behalf of Dilma T and Dilma Conservation for today's session. If you have any questions related to today's session, you can simply put them in the Q&A tab. Please refrain from asking questions on the chat section of your webinar. And during this webinar, there will be interesting poll questions, and you are all welcome to give them a try to make this session more interactive and interesting. Before we begin today's session on basic land preparation techniques, we will give comments and feedbacks on the assignments submitted after the first webinar on designing your home garden. So, Mr. Anuradha, shall we see the comments for the last assignments for the last session?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So thank you again for joining this session. So we were so delighted to see all these interesting assignments because you have put a tremendous effort completing all these kinds of activities, given activity, and you have nicely designed. So these are some highlights or some selected. All in all are good, but we have selected few to show you. I think we received nearly around 70 assignments and from various parts of the country and some other countries as well. So it's very interesting, and we were so thrilled to see all these assignments. So we would like to give there were some areas need to be fine-tuned. So I will explain it to you in next slide. So this is one of the assignment submitted by a participant. So it's very good and very descriptive, and he or she has designed it this in a very appropriate manner according to the concept I have explained in the previous designing how to design a garden webinar session. But I have noted one small, actually it's not a mistake, but some thing we need to be considered because now the house is in this area and for flower garden is in one corner of the property. So usually we grow flower gardens in front of the area or on the way in our by the path surrounding parts, but like in the both sides of a gate. So these are very appropriate areas which we can put flower garden because the fence is here, gates are here. So when the people going on the road, they can see flowers, and the people who live with the family members also, they can see the flowers. But if it set up a flower garden in this corner, I think nobody will see it. So, and all the mango, orange and apple trees and all the yam and cassava, all these trees are covering this flower garden. So nobody will be able to see this garden. So my suggestion is to have another backyard garden in this area and move the flower garden to another area. Okay, let's go to the next assignment. Okay, this also, this participant also, he has put us good effort to completing it. So all this is okay, but we need to understand the flows and patterns. That means the functionality of the or different elements and different functionality of a garden. So he or she need to illustrate whether is this because anthurium loves shade. So anthurium then in this assignment he should have mentioned, okay, there are some forest trees, so there are some fruit trees, and this is a shady area. That's why anthurium is located. So there might be, I think she may not have think, he or she may not have think in that way. So, and my suggestion is to, we need to elaborate more functions or more elements in the garden when we do this kind of assignment to find out what are the suitable areas for certain crops. And this property divided by a road, a middle road, and the fruit trees are in the opposite side of the road, and the vegetable plots also in the other side of the road, and the house is in other part of the property. So once we grow fruits and vegetables in a corner, there can be threats from wild animals like monkeys, porcupines, or any other animals. Or sometimes if it's a road, if this is the fruit orchard situated by the side of the road, if this is a rural area and this is not a fenced or rural or urban area, and the property is not properly fenced, some people come and get the harvest, or some people come and steal the crop. So there's those kind of issues also can be happen. So it's quite advisable to move fruit trees or any other vegetable trees into the area where you will be living. Then you have more access to come and see your the cultivation. The trees like timber trees, and which not required too much attention, then you can move to this area. So it's a suggestion, and all the home garden is totally, your home garden is yours. So we can't tell put any restrictions or anything, but this is a small suggestion I just wanted to add it after seeing all the assignments you have done. And thank you so much, and please keep this move, and we'll be giving another several assignments time to time. So then you can get a clear idea about your work and how idea how can move forward, and please keep the flow, and really interesting, and thank you so much. Okay, let's come to the topic today. We'll be discussing basic. Please, can you move the previous slide, please? We'll be discussing basic land preparation techniques. So, and techniques, but there are some crop management techniques which will be involving, and which will be really related to land preparation techniques also. I will be explaining today in this session. Okay, so we'll discuss how we can prepare our lands properly in this session. Okay, this is basic bed preparation. If you see the picture, you can see different types of beds prepared in a open land. So we'll discuss one by one what are the different types, how we can develop them, and what are the consideration we need to think about when we do land preparation. So
yeah, okay. We have come to the first poll question for today's session. The question is, what are factors need to be considered for bed preparation? There are several choices. Now let's see what are the choices of our participants for today. So most of the people think that factors need to be considered for bed preparations are all of these factors. Uh, Mr. Anuradha, what is the correct
Yes,
answer and can you explain this?
yes, of course. So in the next slide, I will explain what are the considerations we need to think about when we prepare our lands. So during the last session, we discussed, oh, sorry, I can't see the screen. All right. Okay. So during the last session, we discussed about how to design a home garden. So what are the factors we need to be considered when we designing the home garden? Likewise, when we do land preparation also, we need to consider different factors. So there are environmental factors. So that means availability of sunlight. If your land is getting more dry and too much sunny, then you need to think about in which way I need to prepare the soil. And if your land is waterlogging, definitely you need to go for raised beds. I will explain to you in later on. So likewise, these are the factors, environmental factors. And depending your location, again, you need to think about these factors like soil type. If your soil is more sandy, you need to have prepare sunken beds. If your land is more slopy, then you need to have ridges and furrows. Uh, and if you can't, I am having I think no, somebody has said yes, and can't you see me, Sarindu?
No, Anuradha, we can't see you.
Is this okay now? Oh, I can't see the screen. Okay. Oh, can you see me?
No, Anuradha, we can't see you.
Now again, can you see me?
No.
Why is that? Like availability of, yeah. So we need to consider about environmental factors. So likewise, sunlight, water. Then we need to think about the location, especially where are we living, and so what is the soil type, what is the slope. I will explain you to one by one. Slope, if the land is slopey, we need to have different techniques. If our land is waterlogging, again we need to think about it in a different way. And land availability again, because if you are living on a rooftop, you can't do out like open field land preparation techniques. So likewise, location also you need to be considered. Then management practices also you need to think about while you are doing land preparation, especially your time availability and some your physical factors. Likewise, if you can't move or well, if you're having any physical issues or any other issues, like if you dig the trench next to your, you might be thinking, okay, my land is waterlogging land, so I need to dig a trench and um, remove the excess water, but your neighbor doesn't like it. And then likewise, you need to think about these physical factors also, and health conditions also, because you need to always, you most of the time you will be engaging in your home garden. So you need to do all these activities which will be more appropriate to your health conditions. So let's discuss different land preparation techniques, and I will explain to you how appropriate these techniques to different environmental and soil conditions. So first thing is planting holes. Planting hole means an individual planting hole. Depending on the plant, you can decide the size of the planting hole. Sometimes it can be 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, and depending on your soil type, if your soil is too hardy, or having more gravel, then you need to dig and fill it with more organic matter. Likewise, and if the soil is more harder, if you cannot make beds, making planting holes is the easiest way. And if the land is also slopy, we cannot turn the soil and we cannot prepare beds because the soft soil parts can be washed off, and you will be losing the most precious part of your soil. So that's one consideration, and this is very much appropriate for fruit crops and coconut like perennial crops, tree crops, and long duration crops. And this is very simple technique, and depending on the crop you can decide. And special like vegetable or like small crops, you don't need a bigger planting hole, but the other crops like coconuts, as I mentioned, they need planting holes. This is the basic land preparation technique. Then the next one is sunken beds. So sunken beds means the bed is sunken and you have a small ridge around the bed to walk around. So this is a picture of sunken bed. So this is one of my cultivation in sandy soil in Portugal, East Coast. So I grow gotucolor or centella according to this method. So the soil is very sandy. So we cannot hold water in a sandy soil, because if we make a raised bed, if we raise the soil, water will penetrate easily through the soil particles. But if we can do this kind of a method, we can it will like work as a basin. Then we can plant especially greens or more water loving crops. And even if you are living in dry zones, so then these types of beds having more water accumulation property. But if you are living in dry zone where you will be getting frequent rain, you should not do this kind of a system, because water won't drain off from these beds. So these beds will be filled all the time if you are if you are living in a wet zone area. So this method is very much appropriate, especially for sandy soils as well as dry zones. Dry zones also, during the rainy season we cannot do this kind of a method. Then you need to cut it and cut a trench from one corner and drain the water, the additional water from the collected in these beds. And the length you can make as much as you wish, depending on the space, but the width need to be at least 1 to 1.2 meters, or let's say 3 feet, because if you sit in this corner, if you and try to pull a weed, you need to have the access to reach to at least 2/3 of the bed. So if your the bed is too wide, then you need to jump on the bed and jump on your plants to do all the management practices. That's why I will explain you all the management practices you need to be engaged in, especially in home gardening. So you need to think about, especially the width, when you're preparing a bed. Then the next type is raised beds. So these are the raised beds, and we raise the bed from the ground level, and we'll be walking in between the in the trench, in the middle part of the middle means the in between two beds. So as I mentioned before, length it can be varies, but the width need to be a maximum 3 feet. Otherwise, if you walk from this side, if you see a weed in the other side of the is next slide, previous slide. So if you see a weed, grass weed in this plant, in this corner, if you are walking from this way, then you need to go all the way and come and pull it out. If the width is too much. So, and you need to have a trench or small trench area to walk around in between plants. Then you won't be damaging any plants which you have grown. So this is very ideal for wet zones, because this will help to drainage excess water during the rainy season and avoid water logging. And we can consider this kind of different containers or rice bags or polythene things as raised beds, because we raise it from the ground level. So this is the typical structure of a raised bed. and it is appropriate for wet zones, and all the vegetables or greens mostly we can cultivate in this kind of a raised bed. Okay, next is ridges and furrows. Okay, this is another land preparation technique. So we call it a ridge and furrow. You can see a ridge here and a furrow in this area. So furrow means, so it's like a curve shape, like a spiral kind of design. So mostly tuber crops we plant, like potato, sweet potato, or cassava, because this is a ridge. Then once we uproot the plant, so then we can easily, without damaging, we can get all the tubers out. So these are the ridges and furrows. So the difference from raised bed is ridge is higher than the raised bed. So usually raised bed is mostly around, we don't raise it over 6 feet or sometimes 8 feet. But the raised bed, this kind of a ridge, we raise it up to 1 feet, or sometimes if it takes this sweet potato, sometimes we go up to more than that. And this side is angular. So this is sweet potato we have planted. So this is angular shape. So it's like a opposite side of a V or curve V in English V letter. So this is the angular shape, and this is a ridge, and a furrow is here. Okay. So then we all discussed about the open field cultivation techniques, but most of them, I think, you will be living on rooftops or flats, or you'll be growing in rooftops, or you'll be having very small, tiny, small gardens, or with concrete floors. So these are good designs, I think. But I think these photos are captured from Dilma Conservation Center in Katubed. So they are having a very nice gardens, and they are practicing all these concepts. So these also with bed preparation techniques, because if you don't have soil in your garden, and if you are living on a concrete, growing on a concrete floor, so these techniques you can use. These are some urban garden techniques using waste material, and this is this is a cultivation rack, and this is a cultivation pad, and different shaped cylinders or cans or bags we can use. So these things also can be done. You need to think about when you are designing when you are preparing the beds. So we cannot tell these things as beds, but these are the sources. These are the methods you can do planting, because we will be next discussing on how to plant and how to take care of the plants. So these are the methods you can use for planting. So actually, it's a bed in your, if you are living on a flat, or if you are growing on a rooftop. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is another concept. So this is actually, if you can practice this, it's a very broad and wide concept. So we tell this as no-till bed preparation technique. That means no-till bed preparation means we do not till our beds. Now, this is a technique widely used now, especially in organic home gardening. So we inform this as no-till bed preparation. That means if we are doing open field cultivation, most of us, every season we do tilling. That means we take a small mammoty and a small hoe, and we used to till the soil every season. So every season we till and prepare raised beds or sunken beds or anything. We use mammoties to clean weeds. But in this system, we never damage the bed. So this is no till. Once we set up this bed, all the time we'll be adding mulching and planting on these beds. So and every year the organic matter layer builds on top of these beds, and it will not damage the soil structure or the other microorganisms which will be living in these types of beds, because most of the soil microorganisms, they live once they exposed to the heavy sunlight. They usually they get die, because once they exposed to the heavy sun, or they sometimes they go far down in the soil. So if you can design your garden in this way with no-till beds, then you will not be damaging your soil, and you will be every year you will be increasing the soil microorganism pool in your home garden. Yes. Then there's another poll question coming.
Yes, Mr. So this is the second poll question for today's session. The question is, what agronomical practices do you need to follow in your garden? What agronomical practices do you need to follow in your garden? So let's see what are the answers from our participants.
Okay.
So most of the participants, fertilizer application is the agronomical practices, the best agronomical practices. So shall we discuss about this, Mr. Anuradha?
Yes, for sure. These all are agronomic practices. I think we missed one slide. We need to discuss. We discussed. Yeah. So these all are agronomical practices. So we prepared beds, but once we prepare beds, we need to think about, okay, we'll be planting these beds, but after planting, we need to engage in all these kind of activities. If we forget about these activities, and if we do planting, then you will be facing many difficulties, especially during maintaining the crops in your garden. So first thing is, because all these are essential management practices, because if you take okra or lady's finger tree, you don't need pruning, but if you plant a pomegranate or a mango tree, you need pruning. So fertilizer and watering, all the plants need fertilizer. Mulching, most of the plants need fertilizer. And if you plant a tomato tree, you need to do staking. But if you do plant bitter gourd, then you need to do trellising. So you need to consider these management practices when you prepare beds in your garden, because because you are the person who will be doing. So you need to consider always what should be the method, because if you make a raised bed in a sandy soil, and if you need to do the watering every day or every morning and evening, then that will be going to additional work for you. So you need to think, okay, I don't have time to do frequent watering. My soil is sandy, so I need to go for a raised bed. So that kind of a method, that kinds of methods you need to implement in your garden, and you need to think about while preparing beds or doing the basic land preparation. So let's discuss one by one what are these management practices which will be required during the gardening, during home gardening. So watering. So you can do watering with a simple garden hose like this, or so which we call is manual watering. So you can use a watering can or bucket or rubber hose and do watering. And then you can go for little advanced techniques like sprinkler irrigation or drip irrigation. So these are different land preparation techniques. So if you are planning to do drip irrigation in future, if you prepare, let's say, planting holes, or then you need to think of, okay, how am I going to design my drip irrigation system according to the planting holes. Or if you make a raised bed and plant, then you need to think about, okay, this is the way I should do. Either because if you plant, let's say, spinach, or let's say another green muknuanno, corticola or centella, then you cannot, you need to do manual watering, or you need to fix a sprinkler. If you set up a drip irrigation system, that won't work. So likewise, you need to think about always what what is going to be your management practice, and how it going to be appropriate your basic land preparation technique. So once we consider watering, so these are different techniques we can use, and you need to prepare beds according to that way. Next one is mulching. So this is also an important uh, activity in your gardening, home garden. So you can use organic matter like Lucidia or banana leaves, any organic matter available in your garden as mulching. Or else you can use the polymulch, which is available commercially. In between, you can have raised beds and cover it with polymulch, and make planting holes like this, and plant with drip irrigation system underneath. Or then you can do reuse rice sacks or polythene or hard paper or anything, and you can do mulching like this. So depending on the availability of resources, you need to do this kind of mulching. Either you need to think about, am I going to use organic matter, or am I going to use commercially available mulch, or am I going to use reuse material? Or sometimes you can have, if you have additional compost, you can do the mulching with additional compost also. But that's a little bit expensive. Okay, then always you need to think about weed control concept, because once we set up raised beds, then once you place plants in between in those beds, then the weeds will come out. So then you need to think, okay, if your garden is very located in a rainy area, with frequent rains are getting, and lot of abandoned gardens or any abandoned grassy areas available, and a lot of grass seeds will be washed off and come to your garden or gardening area. So then you need to think, okay, what should be the most appropriate method of plant preparation you can do, especially in terms of weed control, considering the weed control methods. So this is one garden he has designed. So he has done raised beds and planted Mukunuanna, which is a green in Sri Lanka. So, and he has, these are some trenches moving all the additional water. So he has covered with some polythene to suppress the weed growth. And he's controlling the grasses using a grass cutter in these regions. So all these things you need to consider when preparing the beds, especially if you are doing it in a large scale. Then this is another very important thing once in your you need to do in your gardening is earthing up. Earthing up means we will be putting additional soil and covering the root base of a plant. So you can see in this picture, after planting planting papaya after 1.5 to 2 months time. So we add some additional soil from the surrounding area and cover the base of the soil, especially tubers like potatoes and groundnut, or like cowpea or green gram. So these kind of crops also we need to do time to time earthing up. Even if you plant vegetables also, when you get the rain, the topsoil layer might get washed off. Then the root may be sometimes exposed, and plant might be susceptible for falling. So, and at that conditions, you can add some additional soil and cover the base, especially good for tuber crops, but even other crops also you need to do this, because then that will encourage more new, that will stimulate new occurring new roots, and it will improve the soil aeration, especially because if your soil get tightened in the around the base of the plant, you can take a small fork or the mammoth and lose the soil and add some soil to cover the base, and you can do a mulching also around the plant, and this that will conserve more soil moisture, and it will reduce the competition between the weed, grasses, and your crop. So this is a very essential activity in your garden, and this will give a lot of multiple benefits to the plant during the plant growth. Then this is another important factor, because most of you design your garden and place crops. Then finally you will be thinking, how should I make how should I prevent these issues? Because if you plant banana tree in a planting hole in a corner, if this banana trying to fell into the other neighbors of the property, and and you will be the disturbing its activities, or it's going to be another problem for your neighbor, then you need to do staking. But then you can't do staking because you have put a plant in the boundary of your property. So all these techniques you need to consider, especially when preparing basic bed preparation. Especially staking. Staking means if you plant vines like lawn beans, loofah here, this is snake gourd, bitter gourd, or any other crops. You need to put trellising. Trellising means different types of trellising you can prepare to hold all these vines. Then again, you need to do staking. Staking means we put up a stick or some wire or anything, and try to hold the plant, because most of the plants, especially plants like tomato, when they are getting heavy with fruits, they are trying to fall down. So we need to put some sticks or put a fence like this if we plant more tomatoes, or put 2 poles and put a wire or barbed wire or any cable, and you need to hold them without hauling them onto the ground. So this is another important practice we call trellising. Staking. Trellising mostly we are using for the vines. So this is another trellis made using wire ropes for bitter gourd cultivation. So this is the boundary of the property. So what we have done is we use this. These are the boundary. This is asbestos sheet wall. So we fixed ropes from that corner, and this is the way we prepare the bed. We prepare the raised bed along the boundary of the property, and we use the walkway in between like this. In between, then we can walk and we can see all the plants. If we need to harvest, we can walk in between the vine and the asbestos wall. So these are the things you need to think. So okay, this area, this is the management practice I am going to do. So that is how I am going to design the bed. So if we take this picture, again, this is a walkway, and he has planted snake gourd in planting holes with this kind of a trellis. So this is also another vertical trellising method with sticks. So all the vines growing vertically, and we can walk and do the management practices from both sides of the long beans bed. So this is a very important factor you need to consider preparing beds, because you need to walk and do all these management practices, especially for vines and vegetable trees. then needing to design beds and prepare land according to appropriate for these management practices. Okay, this is another important activity, especially when we grow fruit crops, because this is a big complaint we are getting from the home gardens, and you also will might have same issues, because you might have planted especially fruits like passion fruits, lemon or pomegranate or mangoes, but they are not giving you some at least some reasonable yield. That because of not doing proper pruning. So if we take passion fruit, we need to get the main vine up to 6 feet, and then we need to divide it into two, and every 1.5 feet we need to do pruning and get lateral branches. Then only the fruits will come on the lateral branches, because then the vine getting all the leaves are getting good sunlight. Because if you try to grow few vines from the bottom, and if they are growing everywhere, then there's a competition in between each and every vine, because this main vine the vines are having only one fruit system. So we need to keep only the main vine up to the our trellis, or the cable or the fence, or where we are in the desired location we are going to let the plant to grow. Then again we need to prune the lateral branches and keep main branches, additional branches, because then only there will be a balance between the leaves. Otherwise the plant will overgrow and won't give you a fruit. So pruning is very important in passion fruit. Even in lemon also, you need to especially remove all the water suckers, and I will explain you. You'll be seeing a short video on orange pruning. In pomegranate also, you need to prune. And again, manioc is also a tree. If you plant manioc, sometimes you have seen plenty of branches are coming from the main stalk. Always you need to remove the additional branches at least, and at least keep keep one branch, or at least only two, not at least, only keep only two branches, or only one branches is more suitable, because otherwise more branches will create another competition, and plant won't get enough sunlight. So even if you plant cassava or manioc, even on the ground or even in a bag like this, you need to reduce the number of branches coming from the main stalk. So then let's see this short video on lemon pruning, orange pruning. Now there are many branches which cannot be used for prune, so we need to remove them. So I will show you how to remove them. You can use a pruning shear or pruning knife, or you can use simple hacksaw blade like this. You need to identify the main branches. These are the productive main branches, but you can see these ones, these are water suckers, they are not productive, so we need to remove them first. Prune all the unnecessary branches. On those cut surfaces you can apply some engine oil or some wall painting to prevent decaying of these surfaces. Then the natural bark will come and cover this. So this is the final stage of after pruning. Now, okay, then again you need to prepare beds. Especially this is very important, because some of you may prepare beds by the next side of your next to the roof. If the roof is not having a gutter or the gutter has broken, then a lot of all the water which collects from the roof will come and accumulate to your beds. So always you need to think you need to think that also you need to consider, keep that in your mind. So you need to protect your crops from the heavy rain. So and you need to secure your water source also, because if you are living in a dry area, definitely you need to save water, otherwise your water bill will be goes very high. So always try to think that one, and try to avoid heavy rains. So better not to plant some trees or any fruit trees next to your the roof, because the heavy water flow will damage your trees. Or else, if you plant uh, some trees, fruit trees, which are having frequent water, like mangoes or citruses, if they are getting more than enough water, sometimes they won't get stimulated for flowering. So that also need to be considered, and you should have the ability to control the resources like water and sunlight, and or control the heavy rain. Those things also need to be considered when preparing beds. So this is a simple rain structure. So then these raised beds are prepared inside this rain structure, and some other crops can be grown outside. And likewise, you need to design, and this is some designs you can use. Okay, this is the second assessment will be given to you after this session. So then, Saradu, are you going to explain this?
Yes, Mr. Ram. So, fill in the feedback form that will be sent to you tomorrow. So, the deadline for this is 28th December 2021, and send in any photographs of the land prepared for the concept learned and any agronomical activities that you have practiced so far. So you can send these things to this email address.
Yes. So after seeing this session, so if you are going to do, you might have different plans. Okay, this is the way I'm going to do. I'm going to do this way, design the garden in this way, and going to do some management practices in this way. Okay, do it and send us some pictures. Then we are happy to give our feedback before the next session. 5 minutes before the next session. Okay, now the floor is
Yeah.
open.
Yes, Mr. Anuradha, there is a question from one of our participants that Pindu need to know that pros and cons of using mulching for sunken beds.
Yes, yeah, yes. Can we use sunken beds to mulch? Yes, of course we can do, especially during the dry spell. Definitely, even for sunken beds, we need to do mulching. So only the mulching is not appropriate, or mulching can be harmful during the heavy rain period. Other than that, always we need to do mulching. But during the rainy season also, we can remove, because once we do mulching, we are not contacting the mulch with the plant. So we need to always at least keep 1 or 2 inch diameter radius, 1 or 2 inch radius, small hole, soil layer, open space around the plant base, and do the mulching. Then there won't be any fungal contamination or any other water-logging issues. But if the water is also logging, and if there's a thick mulch also available, then the soil won't get uh, uh, dry. So think about that and do mulching. So try to, especially during next session, I will be explaining to you how to identify the soil moisture level. Then according to that, you can think, okay, do I need to do mulching, or should I do mulching, or is it inappropriate? But if you have bare soil, always do mulching. So that will give a lot of benefits to you. There's another question. So training is mainly used to reduce growth, not to reduce growth. Sometimes, because there are some plants having uh, water logging conditions. So there are sorry, not logging. There are some plants are getting having high vegetative growth. So let's take a tree like orange. There are we get a lot of water suckers because they are not productive branches. They just grow only and they absorb all the food from the tree, and they should just grow wildly and they won't get mature. That's why we tell them as water suckers. So those kind of water suckers we need to remove. Otherwise, they will absorb all the feed, and the productive branches cannot prepare any give us a good yield. Uh, so sometimes we do pruning to reduce the growth, but sometimes we do pruning to get more sunlight to the plant. Because especially in trees like mangoes, the trees need to be in like the funnel shape. Then only the sunlight coming from the top goes to the branches, and branches will get will get more heat from the sunlight and start stimulating. So always we need to do pruning of mangoes to get the better sunlight to the bark of the branches. And likewise, time to time, we need to manage the growth, as well as we need to do the stimulation of plants using pruning.
Yes,
For
there's
the second
another
assignment,
one. Yeah, another question for the question is for this second assessment, do they need to prepare the land and plant crops and send those pictures also?
yeah, prepare land means it's a big thing now. So if you do some plant, if you prepare, let's say if you plant a tree or if you plant some vegetables in a small bed, or that kind of activity, you have 1 month time. So if you plant a crop, if you have a already crop, if you do some mulching, or if you have a crop, if you do some pruning, or if you have a brinjal patch, if you do some staking, or that kind of activity, if you engage, please send us a picture. So that is, we don't uh, think that you need to clean a whole land and prepare beds and do all the planting. Just a simple activity you have done in your garden, appropriate to this session, this lesson, webinar, then send it to us.
Okay, with that, we have come to the end of today's session. And before we wind up, there are a few announcements to make. Please be sure to type in your email address correctly when you register for the next webinar, as you will not receive the Zoom link if the address is incorrect. You will receive a feedback form one day after the webinar, and please be sure to fill and submit the form. Remember that the filling and submitting the form is compulsory, but submitting of the pictures or photographs is optional. And I would like to thank you, Mr. Anuradha, on behalf of Dilma Tea and Dilma Conservation for your valuable time and sharing some amazing information with us today. Thank you to all the participants for joining us today. Hopefully, the next webinar for the Organic Home Gardening webinar series will be about water conservation in your home garden, and it will be held on the 4th of January 2022. If your questions were not answered today, don't worry, all your questions for today's webinar will be answered through an email. Okay, with that, it is time to conclude our webinar for the day. Have a good day and stay safe.